Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hurley, and I'm joined once again by Seamus Brady from An Cluiche to discuss this weekend's games. It's the LGFA Finals weekend. When you look at the senior final between Dublin and Kerry, the intermediate between Clare and Kildare, you have the junior between Down and Limerick, and also you have the Intermediate Camogie replay between Meath and Derry happening this weekend after they drew 2-6 to 1-9 last weekend. And of course, Seamus, it is the last inter-county weekend of the season, unless there's a draw in the LGFA in one of the LGFA points, which there could be. But see, if they all win, if there's a winner in all three games, then it is the last weekend of intercounty GA this weekend. And yeah, it's quite sad to see, but the club scene is coming to fruition in the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, that's it. And thanks for having me back on again, Matthew. It's one of those things where it gets an interesting debate, and I'm sure if you're doing the week in the GA segment on this show, I don't know if you're doing it, but that'd be top of the list, because in my opinion, look, I was a firm advocate of changing it up to a split season, give the players some time off, but we're not giving them time off. It's like you've changed something for the exact same problems. Like the problem beforehand, when the games were being played in September, the finals that is, was that players were then going back to their clubs 5 days later, and it was way too hard for them to come back into fruition. And we've just done the exact same thing. Like we moved the finals from September back into July, and yet somehow the Dublin team that won the All-Ireland against Kerry 10 days later, the Dublin Club Championship kicks off. The football championship, that is. The hurling one had already began. So anyone that fancied playing for their hurlers was also able to play for their hurlers. So it is incredible that we have caused the exact same issue that we tried to solve. So you bring the finals back from September into July, and we just moved the club games with them. Players need a break. Like, I would be an advocate for that like a lot of people immediately saying, oh, but what about the airtime? What about the airtime? Look, August isn't necessarily a month where there's a lot going on. The Premier League starts in August, correct? But apart from that, like, I'd be saying, why not give the players a month off? Why not give the players 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off, so they can spend time with their families, they can spend time with their friends? They are amateur athletes after all. And look, the romance of the finals being in September, that came about because of the history of the finals always being in September. But history changes, and if the finals carry on being played in July, I've no doubt that people will start, especially people growing up now, going to the finals in July when the sun is out and the weather is fantastic. Not this year, but most of the time. Then that will become the image of the finals. I would be a firm advocate that players need the break, and we should give them the break in August. It's not like you're going to lose the fan base, and then you actually give time for a build-up to the club championship. Because I know from my point of view, and I know I banged on now for a bit here, but I know from my point of view, and I'd say it's the same from your point of view, it's impossible to cover everything that's going on right now. You just finished doing the county championship. You're just finished covering the inter-county finals, doing your teams of the year, etc. And we still aren't even done. And yet the club championships have kicked off. So how can you give them the coverage that they deserve? You can't. So I would be a firm advocate that start the club championships in September, give the players August off.
Yeah, definitely. So we will go into the week in the GA now, the last week in the GA segment. And that is the main story with the club championships, starting straight away after the inter-county, really. And actually, you've seen just a clip of me actually looking out at the corner of the screen there. It's actually because I'm in front of a window here, and the weather is absolutely terrible. And Seamus mentioned the weather is absolutely brilliant in the month of July normally, but it is bucketing down rain here. I'm sure it's the same in Dublin, but yeah,
it's actually been all right today. It's actually been all right.
Jesus,
I
don't know.
I was going to say that's all Ireland champions weather, but you just won the Camogie there last weekend, so.
And it's still raining. And actually, on the Cork Camogie, first cons that actually come in here, this surprises me. Some of the Cork Camogie players playing championship tonight.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is really, when you think about it.
Let's be honest, Matthew, it's an injury waiting to happen. Do you know what happened in Ballymun against Ballybowden?
An injury.
10 minutes into the game, Paddy Small pulled up with a hamstring injury. I'm going to see more of it. I'm telling you.
That's the thing. And when you look at the Camogie, actually the celebrations of the Camogie team, like you see Hannah Looney going down the league with the O'Duffy Cup, that should have been the image for Cork Camogie throughout the week, really. The players celebrating a rightful win, a brilliant win for Cork Camogie, and congratulations to Matthew Toomey and all the rest of the panel on that win while I'm at it. But they're in the championship. So a comment there said they're in it tonight. As far as I'm concerned as well, the Camogie championships in Cork start this weekend. With some of the players might be in action. I don't know, will the club set them off or what's the story with that? But if the players aren't playing tonight or the weekend, that just epitomises how much of a joke this is. That they just finished an All-Ireland final. They finished celebrating. They had, they went to loads of pubs in Cork and in Dublin, I'm sure. They went to the hospitals. Like, they did all that. They celebrated the right way. And then they're back at the club action next weekend. I think there's something wrong with that, Seamus. I definitely agree with your kind of rant at the start too.
Yeah, like, it's just respect to the players. It's like what they're doing now, and a lot of people are talking about, that they come over and they are like, for example, you meet anyone from abroad, they're stunned that the players are amateur. And it's like, because when they get to Croke Park, they're stunned that it's amateur because of the size of the stadium. But when they see the players and the work they do, like, let's be honest, if you're a GAA player at the top of your game, like inter-county club, like, playing GAA is 50% of your life. You're training twice, if not 3 nights a week. You're going to the gym specifically to improve your GAA performance. And then you usually have a match every weekend, if not midweek as well. So, like, it literally is their life. And that's not even trying to comprehend how much Hannah Looney, Orla Cahalan, Libby Coppinger are doing, playing both for Cork. It's ridiculous. And then at the same time, you think about them this year, how they've managed to keep their heads screwed on when you have the sit-down protests going on, which obviously rightfully so, but it's annoying that they had to do that. You know what I mean? It was annoying that the LGFA and the Camogie Association put them in a position where they needed to do that. And then on top of that, the disrespect shown to them by putting the games on the same day. Like, and then here we are again, 4 days after Cork won the All-Ireland Camogie title, and you're telling me that they're supposed to go out and play for the club. What about a holiday? They just won an All-Ireland title. What about a holiday? What about it? Thank you for your efforts. Here's a holiday abroad, like they do with every other team. Like, do you get what I mean? Me and you talked about, it's just subtle disrespects that are given to the players. And, like, for anybody watching this, shameless plug, but myself and yourself did a video back in January where we talked about our proposal for a GAA calendar, and we gave the players April off and we gave the players August off. That's time to recover, to recuperate, family time, everything like that.
And the thing is, they actually seem to do holidays in December and January. Remember with the Cliffords last year, there was action with the club and they had to postpone their holiday to Mauritius to play with Fossa. I mean, it's brilliant commitment, but it's ridiculous at the same time that these players aren't given the sufficient time off. And maybe there's a fact in this that David Clifford didn't perform to his utmost in the All-Ireland final against Dublin because he was drained throughout the year. He didn't get a prolonged period of rest. The same as Paddy Clifford. The same as Shane Walsh for Galway this year. Like, that has to be...
No, but he's been going since 2022.
Yeah.
Since 2022 kicked off, David Clifford has not had a month off. He's literally been going non-stop. He went from Kerry to Fossa, back to Kerry. That's ridiculous.
It is. And Shane Walsh as well, like basically Galway to Kilmacud to an All-Ireland run. I know he had that holiday, but it was brief to say the least. Then back into Galway.
All of the stuff that people were saying about his move to Crokes and everything like that, like that takes a toll on your head. And then on top of that, David Clifford, like the personal stuff that he went through with his mother passing and all, God rest her, that takes a huge emotional, physical toll on you. You can't comprehend what that did. And yeah, so all of that, without doubt, played a tough role on them, and they just need more time off. Like me personally, I'd like real quick. My calendar suggestion is I'd switch up the leagues, believe it or not. So the hurling leagues. So I'd do it as you take your Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I would do it as like, so the 8 teams, 4 teams on either side, top 2 play each other in the final, and bottom 2 of the 4 groups get relegated. That means you have 4 weeks, 3 matches in the final. So that's February for the league. March, then I do provincial championships. April off. May, June, July, senior, intermediate, junior championships. August off. September club championships begin. December club championships finish.
Interesting to be.
I know that would be crazy. I know that would be a crazy, and then January college competitions, and then February the club leagues kick off again, and then back into the Allianz leagues, because you need the leagues there, because the provincial championships, if the provincial championships are used in a certain way that people stop taking them as seriously, I would make the provincial championships the type of thing that you get top seed in the group if you win your province. So teams still would go for them then. But yeah, interest. Like I think that would work. Look, September, don't get me wrong, September and October, getting through the county championships would be nuts, and getting through the provincial championships would be nuts. But imagine if the end of the year, December, imagine if like New Year's Eve weekend was the All-Ireland Club football final. Like that would be such a spectacle to look forward to. And by the way, on the club championships, if you could wave a magic wand, which I know you can't, but I would wave a magic wand to make all club championships have the same structure, begin at the same time, and so that we know who's getting to what stage at what time. Every club championship we've done, Matthew, every one that we've covered, it's always been Ballygunner winning Waterford first. Then 2 months later, it's the Clare hurling final. And Ballygunner are just twiddling thumbs waiting for the other teams to come out. Or you have Kerry playing 2 club championships in one club championship spell. And then the Kerry champions have been beaten 3 times. Like things like that. Like just make it. Why can you not just make it? It would be awesome if you could have it as 12 teams or 16 teams, depending on how many clubs each county has. The 12 top teams or the 16 top teams in a championship, 4 groups of 4, quarterfinals, semi-finals, final. And then the champions are out. And we all know on one weekend, imagine if there was one weekend where all the county finals were happening in football. The next weekend, they were all happening in hurling. Like, that would be nuts, but it would be so entertaining.
The thing is as well, and this is the last question on this, the Cork Football Championship, actually, the first weekend of that happened on the same weekend as Dublin and Kerry in the All-Ireland final. A lot of fans were complaining about that, saying that the Cork Championships were getting downgraded a small bit and the All-Ireland final was getting upgraded. The All-Ireland final is an unbelievable spectacle in its own right, but the Cork Championships weren't getting the advertisements and stuff like that. And Kevin O'Donovan replied to them questions by the fans, saying that if the Cork Championship was to start in what you were suggesting, August, potentially September, then the Cork Championship wouldn't get finished on time, because let's not forget there's hurling, there's football, there's divisional competitions as well to get done. So, and then there's Munster Championships to add on to that, and then there's the weather. There's the treacherous weather all over the country. And to be honest, like the only all-weather pitches that would be in sufficient use would probably be Crow Park potentially, the Connacht's Dome, which is very good for the winter, and probably the Parky Heath 4G pitch. That's it. That's an issue as well for the winter. So is there an issue that is Kevin O'Donovan right in a way? I know you said that club championships should start in September, but his argument is that let's say the Cork Championship won't get finished in a small amount of time in between September and November.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point about the weather. Like that's the one thing you cannot plan for. Like you can't plan for pitches being waterlogged or snowfall or conditions like that. You can't plan for that. And that's a really good point. That is it though. It's just like, do you play those games on all weather pitches then? Like, is that the answer? Because like, like you're looking around the counties, then you're looking at, UCC have an all-weather pitch, DCU have an all-weather pitch, UCD have one. And then you're looking around other colleges, like, I don't know, but I'm sure NUIG or University of Galway have one. I'm sure UL have one. Is that the answer to that? Maybe so, but then that does change the game. You're right. That does. Like, playing, for anyone who hasn't really played recently, like playing on an all-weather is very different to playing on a pitch. The way the ball bounces, particularly for hurling, getting your touch on an all-weather is different to getting it on a grass pitch. Ball bounces very differently. And so yeah, like that would be something that needs to be taken into account. I do think in the future, like the Connacht Dome, I think is one that will be more widely found across the country over the next 50 years. I think they'll go Connacht, then Munster, then Leinster, then Ulster, or whatever order the provinces. And then Dublin will get one, and Kerry will get one, and Galway will get one, and the big counties will get one. And then the trickle-down effect. I think 50, 60 years' time, I think every county will probably have one.
Interesting point. And this will be a discussion that will go long into the year, I'm sure, with the club championships in general. But one more thing in the week of the GA, actually, the players of the month sponsored by PwC have been announced in the past few hours. And in Gaelic football, it was Brendan Rodgers from Derry. Limerick in hurling, it was Cian Lynch. In LGFA for Kerry, and we'll discuss Kerry in a bit, and this player in particular, Louise Niver-Hurtig. And for Waterford in Camogie was Beck Carton. So out of them 4 players, do you think the GA made a right, or whoever controls these awards made the right decision in choosing those 4 players?
No. Amy O'Connor takes the Camogie one for me. Look, Beth Carton, fantastic, fabulous player, but Amy O'Connor scored 3-7 in an All-Ireland final. Like, or maybe actually, sorry, yeah, no, it was outside. Sorry, my bad. It was in August. Okay, yeah. That's my bad. Beth Carton, yeah, you could argue that for July.
Saoirse McCarthy from Cork.
Saoirse McCarthy definitely right up there. Saoirse McCarthy, yeah, actually, I still would probably lean to Saoirse McCarthy, actually. Yeah. For Brendan Rodgers on the football for July, great shout. Like, fantastic shout. Fantastic in the quarterfinal, fantastic in the semi-final, like a real heroic performance. And then, would the Ulster final have been in July?
No.
Or June? No. The group stage would have been in July. But he's been fabulous in every game that he's played. And then Louise, unbelievable player. Like, absolutely terrifyingly good. like she's the main one I'm worried about going into this weekend. And
last one, Cian Lynch, deserved.
Cian Lynch, yeah, you could definitely argue that. I definitely see why he got it. Had a fantastic semi-final and a fantastic final. Especially considering the pressure that was on him. Like, he brought back into the team a lot of pressure on him to finally perform, because he hadn't had a good year up until that point. So, look, yeah, while I do see arguments there for the likes of Peter Casey, especially him, for the likes of Darragh O'Donovan, I also see the argument for Cian Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. And overall, they're decent enough suggestions. I'd probably change one and say Saoirse McCarthy instead of Beck Carton. But other than that, I think they're all relatively good calls. But we will get into the games now, and we'll start off with the senior final. It's a repeat of the men's decider. It is also the women's decider. Kerry against Dublin in Croke Park, Sunday, 4 p.m. on TG Car. Are you nervous coming into this game as a Dublin fan, Seamus? Because Kerry, they look good the previous few games, beating the All-Ireland champions, of course, in Meath. They also beat Mayo in the semi-finals. They got over the line in that one. But having said that, Dublin, in the semi-final, especially against Cork, they were absolutely outstanding. And it definitely, seems to be that this will be a brilliant final to look forward to.
Yeah, I am nervous, but I'm a lot more confident going into this final than I would have been were it not for 2 amazing performances in the quarterfinal and the semi-final. Like, Kerry, if you watch Kerry's games throughout the championship, Kerry have a bit of a pattern of smashing teams in the first half in a 10-minute or a 15-minute spell, and then completely dropping off the boil in the second half, or for large periods of the game. Like, against Meath, they were 2-7 to 3 points up at halftime. Against Dublin, they had Dublin on the ropes at halftime, and Dublin came back in and dominated the second half, but just fell short. They left too much work to do. Against Mayo, they hit 1-7 unanswered. I think it was in something crazy like 9 or 10 minutes that they hit that in. And Mayo then came roaring back into the second half, but again, had left themselves too much to do. So the point is Kerry throughout the championship have been reliant on those surges where they really do damage in a 10-15 minute spell. Very similar, actually, if you look at it, to how Kilmacud Crokes won the club football championship. You smash in the first 15-20 minutes, and then you spend the rest of the game trying to whittle that back, and you don't quite be able to do it. That's kind of how Kerry have done it. They scored 1 point in the second half against Meath. 1 point. Like, I know it was into a gale, but still, Meath looked like they were pulling them back in for large parts of that second half. So it will be interesting to see how they approach this final. Will they continue with what has got them here, or will they try and have a more calculated approach? Because for those 10-15 minutes, they really go for the team's throat, and Dublin will be aware of that. And I've no doubt that Mick Bohan has plans for what to do if Kerry start to get the run on them this time, because Dublin didn't have a plan for what Kerry were going to do when they got to Parnell Park. And once Kerry got the run on Dublin that day, Kerry did enough damage to ultimately get the victory, although it was only by 2 points in the end. Finished Kerry 2-8, Dublin 1-9. And having seen Dublin's performances in the quarterfinal against Donegal and the semi-final against Cork, I'm a lot more confident going into this game. Like, you got to remember, Donegal beat Dublin last year in the quarterfinal, knocked us out. For us to go away to Ballybofey and to beat them by 3-12 to 6 points is hugely impressive. Then in the semi-final against Cork, a team that I know GA Matt doesn't add up, but Cork are a team that have played Kerry twice this season, drew at them once and beat them the second time, and dominated them in the first half. They were 4-10 to 7 points up at halftime against Kerry in that Munster final. For Dublin to make that Cork team look ordinary makes me a lot more confident going into this final. Because I know GA Matt doesn't add up, but Cork had Kerry's number. And for Dublin to beat Cork, I think, is a great acid test going into this rematch.
The thing is as well, I was going to discuss the Kerry and Cork games in my next point. Actually, across league and championship in general for Kerry, the only team they didn't beat was Cork. They've beaten every other team that stood in their way. Waterford, Tipperary, Dublin, of course, the first day, Parnell Park, Cavan, Meath, Mayo. They beat teams like Galway in the league, Donegal in the league. So they've beaten nearly everybody except Cork. But maybe, I'll grant them that, maybe it's just a psychological thing not getting over Cork this season in general. But is that something to be proud of for Kerry going into the game? But in general, if they are to win the All-Ireland, do they have to win this game? Because they've won every game, they've won nearly every test other than the Cork game. So is this kind of the year where Kerry have to win the All-Ireland?
Yeah, a little bit. But even then, the critics will always point at what you haven't done. And Kerry haven't beaten Cork. When it really, really matters, Kerry have not beaten Cork. And that is something that people will immediately point at. And it will be, do you know what it is? It's very similar to when Limerick got to the All-Ireland hurling final in 2021 against Cork. And I remember people being frustrated from Limerick when Cork beat Kilkenny in that All-Ireland semi-final. Because I remember it was like, well, Limerick have beaten Cork, so they've already proved that they can, but they're yet to beat Kilkenny. Because at that time, Kilkenny were the last team to beat Limerick. Everyone was saying Limerick need to, right the wrong of 2019. And if Kilkenny had got past Cork in that semi-final, it would have given them the opportunity to do it that year. And by Cork beating Kilkenny, they took away that chance. And obviously 2022 and 2023 have completely put that right. They have put that to bed now for good. But you could argue it's a similar situation with Kerry. Would they have wanted Cork in the final? Because on one side, Cork have their number and have had their number in the past. But it would have also given Kerry a chance to put that to bed because, as you said, they've already beaten Dublin this year.
That's the thing, yeah, in fairness. But do you think the game in Parnell Park at the start of the championship will play into this game? Will it play on Dublin's minds? And let's not forget, Dublin got hammered at Austin Park in the league as well. So 2 losses this season against Kerry for Dublin. Would that worry you in a way, or is this I asked Matthew Toomey the same question in the Camogie preview for the Suburb Star last week. Would the game against Waterford play into this game? And he said it's a completely different game. There's a few changes, a few tweaks. So this is nothing to play. So is it the same? Will Mick Bowen be thinking the same as Matthew Toomey?
Yeah, like it's exactly the same situation. It's like Cork lost to Waterford by 2 points in the Munster Championship. Kerry beat Dublin by 2 points in Parnell Park. And if that, I truly believe, having watched that game, if that game goes on another 10 minutes, I think Dublin take it. They were really pushing up on Kerry in the last few minutes. Kerry looked like they were holding on. And since then, Dublin have got better. Like, they've really put together that half-forward line. You look at a half-forward line now. Kate Sullivan, Caoimhe O'Connor and Orla Nolan. That's just pace. Direct running. They break the line so easily. And for Kerry, like, look, Kerry's defence, it's good. And individually, you're looking at Kayleigh Cronin, Kosh Lynch, Emma Costello, unbelievable defenders. But they've conceded an average of 2 goals a game. Yeah. Like, that's not great. Like, it's not a great record. And that's why it's dangerous.
The outlier in this, actually, they conceded 5 goals against Cork in the Munster final. That's probably why the average has gone up, just to put that in.
True, but you would look at it and say, if Cork can score 5 goals on this Kerry defence, I think Dublin's forward line is as good. You look at the form of Carla Rowe. You look at the form of Hannah Tyrrell. Like, they ain't missing. Carla Rowe is in the form of her life, in my opinion. I've never seen her play so well. And now she's the finisher. Like, she was out there in the half-forward line doing the donkey work that now Kate Sullivan, Orla Nolan and Caoimhe O'Connor are doing. Rowe now is free to just focus on putting that ball into the back of the net and taking the chances that people are giving her. And she's more than doing that. Like, 5 goals already in the championship, 5 goals from Kate Sullivan, 3 goals from Hannah Tyrrell. Like, there's goals in this Dublin forward line. Stuck 3 of them past Donegal and Cork back to back. Like,
2 against Cork.
No, 2 against Cork, sorry. But, like, that's it. 5 goals in 2 games. You telling me Dublin can't score a goal on Kerry?
That's a good point. That is a good point. And as well as that, Dublin shooting accuracy against Cork was 75%. That was incredible. You know, they scored 218 from play against Cork in 60 minutes. It's incredible in its own right. And this is not a 70-minute game whatsoever. It's a 60-minute game, as we mentioned so many times with the LGFA. So that's incredible for Dublin. It seems like they're hitting form at the right time.
It does, and it's like it's a common feature with Mick Bowen's teams. They hit form at the right time. And like, he's done a remarkable job with this side. Like, he's brought in something like, I think it's like 16, 17 new players have come into the Dublin panel this season. Like, that's crazy. You're thinking so many key players over the last 5 years have departed the squad. Like, no more Niamh McAvoy, no more Sinead Goldrick, no more Lindsay Davey, no more Ciara Trant in goal. Like, little changes like that just chipped away at the Dublin that we know. But Dublin have just carried on going and turned it over and found new stars. And going into this final, I'm really confident in these girls. Like, I'm nervous because Kerry are damn good and Louise Nivera-Hertig is as good as I've seen. But I'm really confident in our ability going into this game. Like, Jennifer Dunn in particular, like, we have to talk about her. Like, she dominates midfield. And I'm so interested to see how the battle between her and whether she's picked up by Louise Galvin or Lorraine Scanlon. Whoever picks her up, that's going to be a hell of an important battle, because Jennifer Dunn literally is as important to Dublin around the midfield as she is breaking lines going forward. She's hit 9 points, but she's also set up so many scores for Dublin throughout the championship, because she draws people to her and then lays it off to someone like Carla Rowe. And that's how lots of the goals have come.
Very true. And when you look at the other midfielder, actually, I was really impressed with her. I know Jennifer Dunn's been brilliant, but Ailish O'Dowd, in fairness as well, has done a brilliant job. And Lorraine Scanlon and Louise Galvin have been absolutely brilliant for Kerry. And worth noting as well, Louise Galvin came out after taking a year break last year at 35 years of age. So both midfielders have done excellent in the championship so far. So do you think this is probably the area where the game will be won and lost?
I think so, because It's like when you're talking about Parnell Park, like Parnell Park is it's night and day playing in Parnell Park versus playing in Croke Park. And I'm not throwing a one size fits all on that and saying, oh, just because it's Parnell Park and now it's Croke Park, Dublin will win. It doesn't work like that. And like Kerry have played in Croke Park more recently than Dublin have. Kerry were in the final last year. Dublin haven't played there since 2021 against Meath. So like Dublin haven't been there in a while. And a lot of these girls actually will be their first time playing in Croke Park, which is crazy. But that's the point that I'm making, is that when you're playing in Parnell Park, the pitch is a lot smaller. And we saw in Croke Park, even in the Camogie, a faster moving sport, that when Waterford could not get to grips with Cork's midfield and half back line and half forward line, they couldn't deal with them around there. Cork dominated the game because they won every puck out, they won every breaking ball, they won every ruck, and immediately then was set into the attack. And Waterford were boxed in, and that's what I'm saying here, is that it's a much bigger pitch, and whoever dominates the midfield battle is then able to put the squeeze on the other team. So if you're winning all the kickouts, you're able to push up on the other team and keep them penned into their half. And if one team gets another team like that, if Dublin get Kerry like that, or if Kerry get Dublin like that, it's game over in either situation. Because as we've seen with these teams, once they have teams, once they've got them, they really put the foot down. Because Dublin have been doing that as well in the championship. Really, when they get the foot on the neck, they absolutely ram it home.
And another key aspect is Dublin's defence, because they've conceded an average of 9 points per game. And when you look at the Cork game in particular, 5 points conceded from play. I know they conceded 13 points overall, but 5 from play. 6 against Donegal overall, 1-8 against Cavan overall, 2-8 against Kerry. Then in Leinster against Meath, 7 points. Laois, 3. Meath again, 9 points. Look, it seems to be a common theme that Dublin could see very low scores, but there is a but. Louise Niver-Hurtig, we have to talk about her. 4 goals at 44 points in the championship. Incredible performances, especially in that semi-final against Mayo, where she scored 110, 11 shots taken out of 12, which was absolutely incredible. You have Daniel O'Leary up there, you have Hannah O'Donoghue, and there's another boat with Kerry, because she is out for this game. ACL injury, unfortunately, so she's out of the final. So, look, the main question, first of all, who will Dublin put on Louise Niver-Hurtig? Because it's probably going to be the biggest matchup of the day.
Good instinct says either Martha Byrne or Leah Caffrey. I think Leah Caffrey's a real terrier of a defender. Like, she gets stuck into whoever she's marking. Martha Byrne is a class player. Like, really, really good. And she went on to, I believe it was Ciara O'Sullivan against Cork. And did a really, really good job. But like, Ciara only got 1 point from play. And the form that she was coming into that game, she'd led the way to victory against Armagh. So that tells you how good Martha Byrne is. Will they drop her into the fullback line to pick up Louise? I think Louise is that good that if Martha's the best match for her, do it. Like, do it. Because you cannot leave Louise on someone that you're not 100% sure can take her. You have to put the best foot forward there, because like 110 against Mayo, 1-6 from play, that's ridiculous. You can't leave someone like that in a situation where they can score like that again. And Meath gave a pretty good indication of how to deal with that. Like last year, she got the Shauna Ennis treatment against Meath. This year, I think Martha Byrne, for me, I'd put Martha Byrne on her. You like the other forwards are really dangerous, like Hannah O'Donoghue, Niamh Carmody as well as one that I really, really like. She really stitches the play together. But the obvious one is Louise. You have to stop Louise.
That's the thing, definitely. And you would imagine Katie Cronin has to pick up one of Carter or Hannah Tyrrell. She has to.
She'll take Rowe, I think.
Yeah. And who will pick up Hannah Tyrrell, in your opinion?
Yeah, pretty difficult. Depends where she goes. That's the other thing as well, is that Rowe might roam about. She might come out to the half forward line. You don't know. Maybe they will do that to try and drag Kaylee Cronin out. So if they do that, maybe Kaylee Cronin will stay in and pick up Hannah Tyrrell. It's hard to know. You'd look at it and say, like, they've got fantastic defenders. Emma Costello at 6, Will she drop back? In my opinion, she shouldn't, because she's been brilliant there. It's hard to know. Who are you thinking?
It's a tight one. Like, Lynch is a good suggestion as well. If Carla Rose...
She's been too good around the midfield, though. I wouldn't sacrifice her. She's been so important around the middle.
Yeah. It's a tight one. It really is a tight one.
But the thing she has the pace to keep up with Kate Sullivan. I think she'll go on Kate Sullivan.
Yeah. But the thing is, if Katie Cronin gets pulled out by Carla Rowe, that's going to be massive. Because she's been like the brick wall for Kerry back there. If she gets dragged out, that could be a danger for Kerry in there, and especially with Dublin's lively forwards. We haven't even talked about Orla Nolan at centre forward yet. She was incredible against Cork in the semi. I think she scored 4 points there. Or was it 3 in the semi-final? You also have Sinead Wilde coming onto the pitch as well. So that's the thing. Like, Dublin seem to have more options than Kerry do. I know Kerry have Neil Crower as a good player as well. You've Neil Carberty, as you mentioned. But it seems to be everything goes through Louise. But with Dublin, there seems to be danger all around the full forward line and half forward line.
Yeah, and like that's what happens when you introduce so many new players. And like Orla Nolan, Kate Sullivan, Caoimhe O'Connor, they've been on the panel for a few years and they've been knocking about and waiting for what has transpired this season, waiting for a consistent game time, consistent run in the team. They've got that this year. And they've really grabbed it with both hands. They've looked so good so far this year. And you're right, Orla Nolan, it's just pace. Like, it's just, and I'm not saying that sounds like it's just, she has so much more than that, but the pace is what is the most deadly. A gap opens up. Orla Nolan, Kate Sullivan, and Caoimhe O'Connor will be through that gap before you even know it's there. And that's why I do think there are goals in this game for Dublin. I think Dublin will get at least 2. Because I think Kerry's defence, while, yes, has been really, really good in other games, I don't think they come up with like a forward line like Dublin's since the Cork game. And Cork stuck 5 goals past them. So I think, and had 4 in the first half. So I do think there's goals in this game for Dublin.
Would that have been pressure, though, with the Cork game? Like, they've beaten Dublin twice this year, so the confidence is bound to go up.
Confidence is bound to go up, yes, but like the point is that, you know, whoever laughs the longest. And you'll know this as a Cork man. Like, how many times Galway beat Cork in the Camogie? Didn't beat them in the semi-final, though. And like, that's like, all of that does not matter. It doesn't matter a jot, especially to Kerry. If you lose to Dublin on the weekend, it doesn't matter. In fact, it actually works the other way. It's more of a stick to beat Kerry with then. It's more of a stick to, oh, you can beat Dublin, but not in the final. Like that type of thing. So for Kerry, it doesn't matter. Dublin, they don't care. They're in the final anyway. And now they actually have like a motivation to right that wrong, which in my opinion is an advantage. Kerry have to go and do it again. They will have the confidence that they can do it again. Like, they make no mistake, they went to Dublin's backyard and beat them. So they will not fear them in the slightest. It's just a question of who can adapt their style better to Croke Park. And in my opinion, Dublin's style has more pace in it. There's more ability to break the line quickly in Dublin's team than there is in Kerry's, which I think is a little bit of an advantage for Dublin. Kerry, as you said, it all goes through Louise. They will be trying to hit Louise as quick as they can, and rightfully so. But as you said, that relies a lot on her. And what we saw in the men's final, very, very similar. Dublin having lots of threats, Kerry having one huge threat, David Clifford. And when he didn't fire, didn't work out for Kerry. So the way Kerry are set up, in my opinion, they're so reliant on Louise. And she needs to have 11 out of 10 performance in this final.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for her in particular. But and before we get into a prediction, actually, Louise herself, like, I think she's 31 or 32 years of age, and she hasn't won an All-Ireland title. Is this Sunday a be-all or end-all for her in general to win an All-Ireland? Do you think, or am I going a bit too far?
It's not the be all and end all, but I think it's Kerry's best chance. I think it's Kerry's best. Like last year, they had an element of that they were still a bit raw. They were still, like, don't get me wrong, they played fabulous football, but they'd kind of come from nowhere in terms of how good they were last year. If you get what I mean. Like, we knew Kerry were coming, but last year they really exploded into life and made the final. But I do think, like, it probably was too soon. And I think they weren't ready for Meath. This year, they're a year wiser, they're a year sharper, they're a year more experienced. I think it's their perfect chance, because you look at it, Cork are going to get better. Dublin are going to get better. Like, Dublin have, as I said, 17 new players in the panel. They're going to get better. Armagh are going to get better. Galway are going to get better. Mayo are going to get better. Like, and you don't know if they will even get to the final again. Because once you get to the final, you are out of the woods. But as we said, moving back through the week, it was so open. Anybody could have taken out anyone in that quarterfinal, and I wouldn't have been surprised.
That's the thing in general. So you are going for Dublin winning this game?
Yeah, I'm going to go Dublin narrowly. Very, very narrowly. And based off of the fact that I think that Dublin have turned a corner in those last two games. As I said, I'm confident because of those two performances. We put Donegal to the sword ruthlessly. We put Cork to the sword ruthlessly. And coming into this final against Kerry, the fact that, like, the victory in Parnell Park from Kerry, correct, that doesn't mean they're going to beat Dublin in Croke Park. Like, Waterford beat Cork in the Camogie. It didn't translate to Croke Park one bit. I think this game is completely different. You have to play it on its own merits. And I think particularly the experience that Carla Rowe, Hannah Tyrrell, Leah Caffrey have of getting over the line in a final will be huge in this game. And I think when it comes down to the final stretch, I think if Dublin can hold Kerry in that first half spell where Kerry tend to bury most of the teams, if Dublin can hold them for that first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, if Dublin can get through the first 20, 25 minutes without conceding a goal, I think Dublin will kick on and win it.
Interesting. It's actually weird, because before this podcast and all week I was saying Kerry will win this game. But the more you talk about Dublin kind of getting a bit more confidence as the year goes on, and the fact that beating a team early on in the year doesn't really matter, it's kind of swaying my mind a small bit. But I just think Kerry will be too strong. I just think Louise Never-Hurtig up front is a diamond. And Dublin need to stop her. If Dublin stop her, they'll win it. Simple as. But I don't think they can. I think she's absolutely in incredible form this year. To have 12 shots in the semi-final and convert 11 of them, it's incredible form. And I just think she could be the difference to get Kerry over the line this game and win their first LGFA title since 1993. And actually, if Kerry win the All-Ireland title, they'll go top of the leaderboard outright. They're top at the moment, but level with Cork on 11. So if they win this, they go top. So I'm predicting Kerry to overtake Cork and win the All-Ireland this weekend. And obviously, this is the only All-Ireland final to look forward to this weekend. There is also the intermediate final between Clare and Kildare at 1:45 on Sunday. Now, look, this is a big opportunity for both of these sides. Kildare were senior, I think, a few years ago. They dropped out to intermediate games nearly straight away after that. Clare haven't been in senior for years, I don't think, but they have some very, very good players. Bedell McMarlin's in absolutely brilliant form. From what I've recorded, she scored 423 in 3 out of the 5 games I've recorded. There's not all match reports and stuff like that, but she's in absolutely incredible form. For Clare, full forward, and would definitely be one to watch on Sunday. You also have Chloe Maloney at 3'8". Ashley Reedy is doing very well in midfield. She did well for UL in the O'Connor Cup, which is the equivalent of the Sigerson Cup in LGFA. But for Kildare, Nasa Dooley has done very well overall in the championship, scoring a total of 4 goals and 3 points. Roisin Burns been brilliant on the freeze, scoring 19 points overall. Aoife Rattigan with 1-4. Lara Kern is an unbelievable player. We know that from the clips we've seen on social media. That goal against Wexford last year was absolutely incredible. One of the goals of the year across all codes. And yeah, this is a big game for both sides. And whoever wins this will go to senior next season.
No doubt, yeah. It's a huge game for both of these teams. Like, look down through the years at the recent intermediate champions, like Meath went on from winning the intermediate on to win senior. So like for Kildare, the fact that they've been in senior quite recently, they will definitely feel like they belong there and they want to get back. So I feel like the two teams might have a bit of a different mindset going into this final, as because like Kildare might have a bit of a vengeance thing that we should get back to where we belong. Whereas, as you said, Clare haven't been in senior championship for years. So they might be approaching this with more of a kind of a hopeful mindset that can we get to senior championship? Like what an achievement it would be if they went on to do it. But yeah, you're right. You're talking about it, like the form of Maloney on the Clare side and the form of Dooley on the Kildare side. Huge players to both of those sides, and be interesting to see how they match up. Like with so much at stake, because like, you know, it's like with the championship in the Premier League, like everything like that. Like it is a huge step if you are able to get from intermediate to senior. It's massive for the game in the county. It's massive for the interest in the county team. It's just a massive weekend and a massive opportunity for both of these teams.
Huge opportunity, and Fidel Marlon will definitely be a big player for Clare this weekend. Like she's been an incredible scoring form with the Division 2 campaign. And the thing is with Clare, there seems to be a fairy tale story brewing here, and credit to Jerome Quinn from the LGFA for this. A very good journalist. Follow up if you haven't already on Twitter and Instagram and things like that. He's a very good commentator for the latest football game in general. He had the story during the week. Caoimhe Harvey, the Clare captain, on the 13th of August last year, she gave birth to her first son, Rian. 13th of August this year, she could be going up the Hogan stand steps in Croke Park to collect the intermediate trophy. To be honest, Seamus, what a story that would be for the Clare captain to do that. So there might be a story brewing in Clare this week.
Definitely, it doesn't need any promotion, does it? Like that story sells itself. Like what an amazing achievement for Harvey to come back. Like the pressure that those athletes feel to come back to the sport after giving birth is something that isn't talked about enough in the game. And for Harvey to come back, not only to come back, but to come back as captain and to be potentially leading Clare to what would be a groundbreaking intermediate title, just speaks to the character that she is. And yeah, definitely a story like that does make you root for them.
Thing is as well, like Kildare have had their stories in recent years as well. Like I remember Mary Holgrain, very good goalkeeper down through the years. She had problems with I think it was alcohol addiction over the last few years, a very serious issue. And she's come back and being the goalkeeper for Kildare, leader in that team as well. So there's stories on both sides to go on and win it. So it'll be an emotional win either way if either of them win it.
Yeah, no, that's it. And like the emotions will pour out, and you'll see just how much it means. Not just because it's an intermediate title. Like, don't get me wrong, it's an intermediate title. It's a day out at Croke Park, and you're recognised on the national stage for your efforts and for your achievements. But on top of that, you then know that next season you're going to get to compete against the best of the best, and that's what these players want to do.
That's the thing, yeah. So are you predicting Kildare to win this game, or do you Clare, Fidel Marlon, and Caoimhe Harvey will get them over the line?
Do you know what? I'm going to back the fairy tale. I'm going to go with Clare to get over the line. Like, the story of Harvey is too engaging to not want to go along with it. And I had heard of it, but I hadn't heard the full details until you yourself said it there. Yeah, that's an engaging story. And maybe a bit of heart over head. Like, Kildare have been in fabulous form. But I am going to narrowly go to Clare.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Clare as well, just because of that story in general. And Clare have won all their games. Well, they've won 4 of the 5 championship games overall. They just drew to Tyrone 2-9 to 3-6. And Tyrone are obviously a county that is steeped in football history. So Clare, even to get a draw on that was incredible. But we look at their scorelines, even 4-22 to 5 points against Wicklow. That was an incredible scoreline there. Beating Westmeath 3-14 to 3-8. And we look at Westmeath over the last few years with Sarah Dillon and their team, Aoife Connolly, to beat them by 6 points was incredible.
They've been a consistent team in a senior championship. Like, to beat them, very impressive.
And then to beat Antrim in the semi-final 2-14 to 1-13, that was incredible as well. Antrim obviously on the crest of a wave, winning junior last year. When you look at Kildare's form, beating Leitrim 5-10 to 4-8, that was an incredible goal getting game there. They beat Louth 2-8 to 3 points. They beat Tyrone, which Clare didn't manage to do actually, 1-12 to 5 points. So maybe that could swing into Kildare. And in the semi-final, probably the most boring game, looking at the scoreline anyway, 1-4 to Kildare, 2 points to Wexford. Would you have watched that game, Seamus?
I didn't know. I won't be ripping up anything to try and find it. So yeah, maybe like that's what I mean is Kildare have kind of kept teams at arm's length. That game was a bad one though, like by the looks of it, and reading match reports on it, like there doesn't seem to be anything really positive to say about it. Kildare will know, look, we got the win. We're into the final. That's all that matters. But they'll be looking for a bigger performance in the final. I'm going to narrowly go to Clare though still.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Clare as well. And the final, love the pun there, love the pun there. On Sunday is down against Limerick in the junior LGFA final at 11:45 a.m. So I think this is the first time we've discussed an AM game on the podcast. But yeah, there you go. It's the first time for everything. But down against Limerick, the junior final. When you look at Down's run to the final, they beat Sligo 113 to 2-5. They beat Kilkenny 13 goals and 24 points to 4 points. Not sure if you ever heard of a scoreline like that, Seamus, to be honest with you.
Wait, hang on. 13 goals and 24 points.
Yeah.
In a 60-minute game.
Yes.
Like really quickly. That's 37 scores. So that's more than a score every 2 minutes. That's something like a score every 100 seconds or 95 seconds or that's ridiculous. How can... Oh my god.
The thing is though, Seamus, it's against Kilkenny who are in their first year in LGFA Championship this season. So
still though.
But still, like they win. But then the next game for Down was actually against Limerick. They won 113 to 1-8 in the group stage. So we talked about Kerry beating Dublin earlier on in the championship. Maybe Down could get further confidence from winning that game. And then they beat Carlow by 1-9 to 8 points in the semi-final, which was a good win for them. Carlow have players like Cleon and Ishii, obviously in very good form in the past few years. Like Natasha Ferris seems to be Down's markswoman in this final. She. For the games I recorded anyway, for 2 out of the 4 games, I'll get on to the other games because match reports are the key thing here. She scored 112 in those 2 games against Limerick and Carlow the last 2 games, so she's done well in this championship overall. And when you look at Limerick's form, they beat Kilkenny 7 goals and 21 points to 1-5, so that's another high scoring game against Kilkenny. They beat Sligo 2-7 to 1-7, obviously the Down loss. And then they beat Fermanagh, which was an impressive win. Fermanagh recently reached the junior final and took Antrim to a replay last year with the likes of Blahy Bogan there, Laura Grew, some very good players, and obviously Brenda Bannon in midfield. Limerick beat them 10 points to 1-6 in the semi-final. So that was a very good win for Limerick in general. When you look at Limerick's team, Iris Skeneely jumps off the page, 3 goals and 10 points in all their games so far. Cathy May has done well on the frees. Amy Ryan-Simon's a good player as well, I'm hearing as well. So this will be a tight final too.
Yeah, it definitely will be. Like you're looking at the game between the two of them earlier in the year. Like from what I've read up on that game, back and forth to fair. And I think for Down to have got that victory is crucial. As I said, translating from provincial ground to Croke Park is a completely different ball game. The pitch is much bigger. It is a different game plan works in Croke Park than would in provincial ground. So whichever side again translates that form better to Croke Park, I think gets the job done. For me, look, Down have looked like they're too good for this championship since day one. Just looking at the score lines, they've pretty much brushed anyone to the side that has been in front of them. And 13 goals against Kilkenny. I know it's Kilkenny, but still, like that's some serious goal scoring power. And I will go for them narrowly to score the victory here. I will go for Down narrowly here because translating it to Croke Park, Down have more threats. They look like they have more threats anyway. Definitely for goals, and goals will win these type of games. And yeah, I'm going to go with Down to narrowly take it.
Down seem like a good team, all right, and they seem like obviously they're a historic football county in general. When you look at the men's team in general, and if Down get the intermediate, that'll be a brilliant sign for them. But I'm going with a Munster team again. I'm going Limerick to win this junior final. I don't know, is it just a biasness in me? Just want Munster teams to do well here, but Limerick, I always had a soft spot for them, and I think Limerick will do well. Iris Keneally's a good player, obviously, Amy Ryan-Simon. And the fact they beat Fermanagh, the favourites in this competition, by a point in the semi-final suggests to me that I think they'll have enough to go on and win this final. But it should be tight. It should be very tight in all 3 games, and definitely all best luck to all 6 sides in Croke Park on Sunday. It will be a day to remember for each and every one of them. And we move on to the last game in our roundup, and it is the Camogie replay, the Intermediate Camogie Final replay at 1 o'clock on Saturdays between Derry and Meath, live on Camogie YouTube, which is very, very interesting. I thought this game would be live on RT, but clearly RT don't care as much for the Camogie as they do the men's football. Just a word before we discuss this game. Are you surprised by that it's not on RT?
No. Like, we've already known like the subtle disrespects. So yeah, here's just another one. Like, even being there for the Camogie final, I know it's a completely sideways point, but even being there for the Camogie finals, there were so many subtle disrespects that just annoyed me. I was like, why is there no Camogie writing on the pitch, Camogie 2023, like you had for the PEL 2023 for the men's football final and the Amanche for the men's hurling final? Why not Camogie or Camogie on the pitch with 2023 for the Camogie final? You'll see it again this weekend. Watch. There will be no PEL 2023 on the pitch again this weekend.
And just as a matter of interest, the venue for this game is Clonus in County Monaghan. So I think this is probably the first hurling or camogie game actually being held there, which should be actually very interesting. On a national scale, obviously,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Interesting to see how it translates. Look, yeah, it's sadly not that surprising. Look, it's the intermediate final as well. I think maybe if it was the senior final, maybe they would have put it in Croke Park. But the minute it was the intermediate final, you knew it wasn't coming back to Croke Park. And that changes the game. Both sides had opportunities to win that game right at the end. 2 frees. The name of the Derry girl took the free, a slip of my mind. I don't know. Was it McNichol? Anya McNichol?
Anya McAllister.
Oh, McAllister, sorry. So Anya McAllister had the chance to win it for Derry. She put it wide. Then Aoife Minogue had a chance to win it for Meath. She put it wide. So both managers at the end of the game looked like they were quite relieved, honestly, to get out of Croke Park without being beaten. And yeah, here they are with a chance to do it all over again. Having watched the game, it was so weird and so hard to predict, because you're looking at it saying, look, if Derry don't run out of steam this time and they start as they did last time, they'll win this game. But if Meath don't start slowly, maybe they'll win this game. So what is easier to do? I'm going to narrowly go with Meath to win it. I just think Meath will not start as slowly this time and won't let Derry get so far ahead of them. And then if they carry on that level that they carried on from the last day, I think they'll narrowly take it. But I could see the argument for Derry as well.
That's it. Look, if Derry lose this after being, 1-8 to 1-1 up at half time, to lose it overall, that would be absolutely gut-wrenching for them.
No, for sure, yeah. Like, they had that game in the bag. All they needed to do was tie it, and they let it slip. And yeah, I think they'll be really, really disappointed that they're even having to play a replay in the first place. Like, that game was there for them at half time, and they were their own worst enemy.
Yeah, that's the thing. And for me, I think Meath will win this game as well. Like, Aoife Minogue seems like a very good player on the middle, and she's an LGFA player as well. So a dual player, a lot more energy in her legs. I would say she'll dominate that midfield like she did to an extent in Croke Park last Sunday. But for me, Camogie in general, for them to go up to senior level instead of Offaly, that would be incredible. It'd be incredible for Derry too, but for me to go up to senior level, it'd be brilliant for the county in general.
Well, that's it. And they'd get a crack against the likes of Kilkenny and Galway and Cork. And it would just, again, increase the interest in camogie in the county widespread. So that's what we're talking about, even with the intermediate and junior football finals as well on the weekend, is that by getting promoted, you raise the awareness and you raise the profile of the teams in the county, and you get more people involved. So this isn't just a game for this weekend. This is a game for the future of that code in your county.
Yeah, absolutely so. And best of luck to both sides in the intermediate final this weekend. That is the wrap up of all the inter-county games at the weekend. So cheers to anybody who joined in on the live stream. Give the video a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Give Gaelic Statsman a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all them. Of course, Seamus's channel on Clare, give him a subscribe on YouTube, follow on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff as well. And thanks to everybody who viewed the podcast during the year, whether it's good reviews or bad reviews. Any bit of publicity is good for me anyway. So thank you for that for the inter-county season. I'm sure we will get into more content as the winter months come and go. As soon as maybe I finish up with the Southern Star, and as soon as Seamus and Aaron and people like that aren't as busy in these times, we might put up a few videos on this channel as well to get to 100 episodes of the podcast, which will be a big achievement in general. So thanks, Seamus, for coming on, and thank you throughout the season for coming on for the inter-county games. And yeah, for everybody tuned in, thanks very much for tuning in.